Hey man, Tim Tebow, Kirby's not trying to piss you off, man, but you aren't Jalen Milroe. That was one of the big things that was discussed today. Dean Legge and Ryan Curley, another edition of Riding Home. There was so much of this press conference on Monday that was dominated by the discussion of Jalen Milroe, and he's hard not to pay attention to. Ryan, here's what Kirby had to say when the question was phrased about comparing Jalen Milroe to Tim Tebow. He says, "No offense to Tim Tebow, but this guy's different. It was a different running style. They're very different running style." And let me just pause for a second. Meaning, Milroe is really fast, and Tim Tebow was not like that. He said, "I mean, when it's like I used to ask my sons who they were playing on the Madden game, and they would say, 'I'm playing with the Ravens.' I would say, 'Why are you playing with the Ravens?' They would say, 'I got Lamar Jackson, and nobody can tackle him.'" Well, this guy's a bigger physical version of that. He's playing in a different speed than everybody else when you watch him, and that's the way the Madden game. That's why, and that's the way the Madden game was for him. And the guy throws the ball really well. Talking about Milroe, so the comparison to 2009, I don't know if you're trying to compare that or you're just saying, do I remember the game? Talking about Alabama and Florida, that which is a real challenge for Kirby and them. But they won that game. He goes on to say Florida was the dominant team in the country at the time, and they had some really good football players and had a really good coaching staff. And we played a good game that game. And the players all believed and so forth. Blah blah blah. Alabama went on to win their first national championship since 1992 in that game. It was a long time coming for Kirby and Nick. He's not he's not like Tim Tebow, really. I would say hardly at all. Tim's style was to get 5 yards or fewer. This guy can explode on you. Better watch it.
It's very different. It is closer to, and it's not Lamar Jackson, but it is closer to that, and where there's a lot more electricity to it. Tim Tebow
Yes.
wasn't a threat to go 50 yards, really. I mean, how many times did he have like a super explosive
Yeah.
run like that? Yeah,
I mean, he was not without long runs,
yeah. I
but
mean, it happens, but
but that's not what.
Milroe's out here dodging people, running
Yes.
over people, running by people,
Running by.
outrunning
Tim Tebow
people.
wasn't running by
Yeah,
a lot of people.
yeah. That's the difference. At the 35-yard line, if Tim Tebow took off, you weren't really thinking that much about he might score here with Milroe. You kind of think there are certain football players where I feel like they are a threat to score almost every play, and Jalen Milroe has honestly been one of those types of players this year. Brock Bowers is another one where it's just guy's got the ball in his hands in space. You think it's probably going to be a touchdown. There are certain types of players like that. Milroe's closer to that. Is he Lamar Jackson? No. Lamar Jackson was. I'll say this to Kirby's comment. Lamar Jackson was different when talking about with Jalen Milroe. I think Lamar Jackson was also a better passer than Milroe in the
I would disagree with
intermediate
that.
and the short game. I think a lot of their game is predicated on the deep ball with him.
A lot of this discussion this week, and I know it's from Georgia towards Georgia reporters towards Kirby, is asking about Jalen Milroe. There's not been a lot of focus in Athens necessarily on Carson Beck, who is the better of the two passers in this game. Carson Beck has been tremendous. But one thing that Jalen Milroe has really done a lot, actually, really. I mean, he played really well against Mississippi. That's not a great defense over there. Georgia put 50 up on him or whatever it was. I mean, he threw for 80% against them. He threw for more than 80% against State. But there were times when he you don't want to be too far under 65%. Texas A&M really made him have a hard time talking about Jalen Milroe. 63, about 64%, 3 touchdowns though against Arkansas. What did Arkansas do to really slow him down and nearly upset Alabama? He went 10 for 21, Ryan, for 238 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he ran the ball 11 times for negative 19 yards. You can stop this guy, but you'd better be. I think the big thing to me is you're going to have to make Alabama drive the ball. If they're going to be explosive or anyone's going to be explosive, you're in trouble. If you make them drive the ball, can they consistently do that?
No, I mean there have been games where Alabama struggles to move the football. I think they struggled to move the football against
Okay.
Texas, and multiple turnovers doesn't make that any easier. That'll be another big thing, and it is with every single game the turnover battle. Georgia causing a couple turnovers, you see the difference in the games where a team's turning the ball over and a team's creating turnovers. So, they're susceptible to that. I mean, how many defenses has Alabama played that are as good as Georgia? A&M's is a pretty good defense. Texas is solid. How many defenses have they played that are as good as Georgia's? I mean, Texas A&M's is up
So
there.
yeah, so
And
just to answer that question, so Georgia is the number 9 total defense. Texas A&M is number 10. After that, they did not play Missouri. They played Tennessee, they played Mississippi State, and they played Kentucky. So in the top 50, they're playing, and they played Arkansas and they played Auburn. So Arkansas slowed them down, Auburn slowed them down, Texas A&M slowed them down. Tennessee did not, State did not, and Kentucky did not. So it's about half and half. But in terms of the higher end, Ryan, Georgia will be the best statistical defense that they face Alabama.
yeah, I wouldn't. I would say Tennessee did slow Alabama down. You talk about the first
They
half,
certainly did in the
Alabama
first
scores
half.
one touchdown, and
Yeah.
in the second half, that 34 comes from the scoop and score touchdown. It wasn't Alabama didn't put up 34 on offense. That last touchdown was a scoop and score. So Alabama didn't just run through Tennessee, especially since they were down 20-7 at halftime.
I can't remember.
34-20
Yeah.
was the final score. They were down 20-7 to the Vols at the half, and then the third quarter, they explode for is 2 touchdowns exploding in a quarter? A little bit.
Well,
That's what they did to Tennessee. It wasn't um, as pretty as I think the box score would show.
let me just say this too, though. For Georgia, this will be the most difficult defense they face too. I mean,
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
Alabama checks in at 17. There's a little bit of trash at the top here, or in the you getting some teams Air Force. I mean, who's Air Force playing? So, but Alabama is not allowing many more than 300 yards in a game. So they are a very good defense, and the toughest defense that Georgia's played so far this season, I believe, is Missouri. Yeah, and they had a hard time against them. The second most difficult one for them, and then the third were Tennessee and Kentucky, and they just thrashed those two. I mean, a lot of this is where are you playing, stuff like that. But Arkansas and Arkansas and Bama was in Tuscaloosa, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, I don't know. We've kind of gotten towards Georgia's defense and all this stuff. I think for Jalen Milroe, a lot of times the run game stuff, we talk about that a lot, but he's going to have to function as a quarterback, Ryan.
Yeah. He's going to. I mean, the quarterbacks. There just hasn't been a quarterback that's played well for 4 quarters against Georgia's defense. I
The
truly
Missouri
think it.
quarterback, you're not going to give him. I mean, it wasn't
Fourth
great.
quarter, it wasn't great. It
It
was
was
that was
good.
the best, I guess, in a 4 quarter performance. That was the best. Was Brady Cook, and even then, I think he was around 50%
Yeah,
completion
he
percentage.
was.
Georgia's defense did a good job of limiting him after getting beat early. A lot of his production was in the first half because Georgia really controlled that third quarter against Missouri, and we've seen Georgia control the third quarter in a lot of these games. That is gonna. I mean, Spencer Rattler had moments. Brady Cook, I mean, Graham Mertz had 2 or 3 moments. I'm trying to think.
Did he?
It will take consistency from Milroe. It's not just going to take him beating
Correct.
Georgia on 2 or 3 plays. It'll take him beating Georgia on 10 or 15 plays.
Yeah.
It can't just be a couple, and that'll be the real challenge. Joe Milton didn't play well at all against
No.
Georgia, and they had no chance. They had no chance because of that. And
Yeah.
that's not the only reason, but that's a big reason.
Yeah. I mean, listen. You and I have talked about this for years. You better have a really good quarterback. I mean, is Jalen Milroe that good? There have been moments in time when he has
Yeah,
been.
but he the thing with him is he hasn't had a lot of moments with his arm where he just really beat a defense or really made an impressive play. I mean that the Auburn play last week, that was a heck of a throw, but it was a Hail Mary type of situation. Um, and outside of that, I don't think we've seen him, make any real marquee throws against some of these defenses. I mean,
I don't know that I mean,
I haven't seen him make a other than these deep balls. I haven't seen him.
That's what he's good
I
at,
haven't
though.
seen him laser it in 20 yards across the
But
middle and
that's what
stuff
he's.
like that.
That's what he. It's okay to play to your weapons and your strength and all that. And I think that's what Nick and them have done. To their credit, is they have said, "Oh, okay, this is what we can do with Jalen Milroe. Can we win this thing with him?" And the answer is yes. I will tell you this: at the beginning, before the season, most folks did not think Jalen Milroe, behind the scenes, did not think it was going to be Jalen Milroe. They thought it would be Ty Simpson that would be the person that would come in and get it. And the bringing in of the Notre Dame starter from a year ago, there was a lot of behind the scenes, like, what's going on there with that? But the fact of the matter is that Nick has done a great job of developing Jalen Milroe and making him not just their starter, but their leader. I mean, he's been very good this season.
Yeah, he has had a good year. Has he had the year that he thinks he had when he yelled, "Give me that Heisman" the other day? No, but I mean, 30 total touchdowns, 30 plus total
Yeah,
touchdowns is a lot.
it
And
is.
I think the yardage on the ground hasn't been there in terms of just this exceptional season, but they've gotten the job done with him, and he has gotten better over the. You should get better. If you're a good football player, you should get better as the year goes on, and you get momentum. I think we've seen that with Carson Beck. Just kind of continuing to grow and grow. Even if last week's whatever. Last week was not a game plan where that was meant for him to air the ball out. But I think we've also seen that with Milroe, and then there's a lot of parallels with this team and the way they're playing well at the right time. They're blowing out the teams they need to blow out. Heading into this matchup with Atlanta, and they finding their identity on offense, I think, is another thing. And it almost took Alabama benching him. Like, I can't remember who it was they played in week 3, but it almost took them benching
South
him
Florida,
to
yeah.
South Florida to realize, okay, we need to hitch our wagon to this guy and build around that. And similar to the way Georgia had to find its identity by letting Carson grow up and getting healthier, that's kind of where I think that's similar.
I think it's going to be challenging too for Alabama, just simply because of
Yeah.
their situation at running back. I mean, even if you don't know for sure if you're going to play on Monday or Tuesday, that's not a great place to be in, even if you do play on Saturday. But we'll just see. We'll see over time. Football injuries are a part of football. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.